continuing to pay somebody else's mortgage. Again, one of those cliche things I think that real estate agents say.
Yep.
But again, if you can humble yourself and say, I just want to get into a starter home. What can I afford right now? Get into it. Sacrifice those couple of years. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be glamorous. But like you said, you're then going to build into, now you've got a bigger down payment for a home that you may really want years later.
Yep. Welcome to the Growth Drivers Podcast, the show where we break down the leadership frameworks, mindset shifts, and strategies that fuel entrepreneurial success, personal transformation, and business breakthroughs.
I'm Rachel Novak.
And I'm Mike Novak.
Let's dive in and start driving your growth.
All right, today we're talking about the top 5 mistakes that buyers are making right now. We're shooting this in Q4 of 2025 for context. And some of these mistakes are mistakes that people make in any market, and some of them are very, very specific to what's happening right here, right now in this very dynamic and unique market that we have both locally and nationally. We're in conversation with agents nationwide through our Real Brokerage Network and also through coaching and everything else we do. And what we're experiencing in our market seems to be kind of the norm in most areas, which is kind of, just to sum it up quickly, is a drastic increase in inventory, like very, very quick increase in inventory, and some price softening and homes taking longer to sell, just to kind of sum it up.
That's exactly, yeah. And it as I don't know if we've talked about it specifically on the podcast before, but what we experience on the West Coast typically tends to be kind of the start of the ripple effect. And we're now seeing, our friends who run teams in the Midwest and even the East Coast start to experience the same kind of market that we've been experiencing for a couple of months. So we always tend to get kind of the beginning of whatever new market we're walking into. We kind of see that first here on the West Coast. Yeah,
and it kind of starts in California, and then it tends to go to Vegas, then it ends up here in the Northwest, and then it goes to the East Coast usually. So, obviously, like one of my best friends, Mike Rowland, lives in Vegas, and so I'm talking to him every day, and he said the market has drastically picked up in the last couple of weeks out there, which is awesome to see. So that could be heading our direction as well. But right now we have a lethargic market. It just kind of feels stagnant. Overall.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, let's jump right into it. The first mistake is misunderstanding the market. I think that this is a mistake that buyers make and sellers make as well, regardless of what's happening in the market. They just don't understand what's happening. And oftentimes their source of information is the problem. And the source of information is frequently what they see in the news, so a national level. And then it's also what they hear around the water cooler.
Exactly.
Right? And neither one of those, unfortunately, are a very reliable source with which to make a decision to sell what's probably, or buy, the most valuable thing you're going to own. For a lot of our clients, their home is the most valuable asset they have. And you need to go off of real facts and data and really understand how to interpret that data to make the best decision versus relying on third-party information that's not valid.
Exactly.
Or credited for that matter.
I also think that kind of wrapped up with the misunderstanding of the market is getting the housing market and the stock market confused. Because I've had a couple of clients, even this year, who are making pricing decisions or whether on the sell side or the buy side, they're making pricing decisions based on what the stock market is doing. And these, while there may be parallels in particular times of year or years, they are not the same. They're not even close. The way that the stock market reacts to the economy versus how the housing market reacts to the economy are very, very different. So I think that it's a big mistake to think that the stock market and the housing market should be reflective of each other.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. Yeah. So as far as misunderstanding the market goes, we have our audience, which is kind of a mix of real estate agents and buyers and sellers. And so going to just kind of give you some information on what you could look at to better either explain the market if you're an agent or understand the market if you're a buyer or a seller. The data that I share with our clients every single month is the following. It's the average price. Right? What does it look like right now versus the same time last year? Not necessarily versus last month. That matters. But what matters most is how does September of 2025 compare to September of 2024?
Right?
Has that price gone up or has it gone down? And we have to remember that average price is kind of a lagging indicator of where the market's at, right? Because that's a closed transaction. It's kind of the rearview mirror of where it's already been.
Mm-hmm.
So more important than average price is days on market, and it's months of inventory supply. The months of inventory supply is the crystal ball that everyone wants to know about on where the market's going, right? It's not the average price, it's months of inventory. Because when inventory goes up, what happens?
Prices flatten.
Prices flatten, or they start to go down. So if you need to know what that number is in your market as a buyer or a seller, because that really tells you where things are going versus simply where they've been.
Yeah. I think one other thing to think about, especially if you're a buyer or a seller, future or current, if you're getting some of your information from the water cooler, so to speak, so people people who are in the market, who are experiencing things, please remember that has to be taken in the context with which they're experiencing it. Because the market, for instance, in a particular zip code in northern Snohomish County above 1 million is a very different market than in South Snohomish County under 500,000, right? Very different markets. So one could very well be experiencing multiple offers and a frenzy of activity, while one, it's very normal for it to be 60 days on market and have 5 showings within that time. So very contextual when it comes to like the information that you're getting. Just remember to take it with a grain of salt and really think about, am I going to be in that same kind of market as this person, or is that their personal experience?
Yeah, it's a great point. You beat me to it. I was going to bring that up. But what I call the sub-market components to this equation, right? Just for instance, like our county, Snohomish County, it's always fun listening to people try to pronounce that, that from out of our area.
Snohomish.
Yeah. There's 19 cities. And each one of those cities have wildly different markets. There's some similarities, but the variables of price and city and location really do change the story and the expectation and what's going on in that market. So as an agent, you got to know what's happening in that sub-market that you're coaching a client through. And if you're a buyer or seller, you need to understand like what's happening not only in the county, but also at a micro market level of your actual zip code and your city.
Exactly right. Yep.
So number 2, waiting for rates to drop. And we've been having these conversations for 3 years now. We've also been waiting for rates to drop, just so you know, as agents.
Still waiting.
And agents have thought for 3 years that rates are going to go down, and they have gone down. Thankfully, they had gone up, close to 8% or even above 8%. And they're back down to like 6.25% right now. I think when I talked to our lender partner a couple of days ago, he even told me FHA is, in the 5s now, which is great.
Whoa.
So yeah, pretty crazy. But why is waiting for rates to drop a really bad idea? Like, and we've had these conversations so many times.
Look, stop trying to time the market. Like, we have clients who we met with in 2019, 2020, who are like, oh, this is just craziness. I'm not going to get in this market. Like, I'm just going to wait because eventually it'll all even out and things will come down. We are at 70 or 80% appreciation in our market in the last 5.5 years. The people who waited for the rates or waited for inventory or waited for whatever,
they were
5
waiting for
years
prices
ago,
to go down, right?
Yeah.
It was price wait, and then now it's rate wait.
Yeah. Yes. So everybody who's waiting for the rates to go down, you are literally right now missing out on all of the appreciation that's going to be happening over the next 5 years. So yeah, okay, I don't want to pay 7% either. I don't. However, if this house works for me right now, and if I get into it at a monthly number that makes sense for me and my family, not only are you then going to be able to experience the lifestyle that you're hoping for in this new property, but as the market goes on, especially if you're planning on living there for 5 to 10 years, you're going to build wealth and going to build equity in that property over that time, no matter what your rate is.
Right. As real estate agents, we have a tendency to say really dumb cliche things.
Yes.
Date the rate and marry the house. I freaking hate that, but it does make some sense, right? Like, the rate you can change later, right? Like, you always have the ability to refinance the rate when rates do come down. You don't have the ability to refinance the price, right? And what people don't understand is that when rates go down, prices go up.
Exactly.
Like, it's literally a wash in most cases. So the smartest buyers right now, they are out buying as inventory is higher, and they're negotiating hard, right? They're getting deals they couldn't have got a couple of years ago, and they're taking advantage of this window that's there right now to get the best concessions or the best dollars off, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute. And they're getting a fantastic deal, knowing later on they can always refinance when those rates actually, in fact, go down.
Exactly. And like by the time that you go maybe to refinance, maybe it's 2 years until rates go down far enough where it makes sense and it justifies you actually refinancing into a lower rate. Guess what? Like your equity is going to be more. Your home is going to likely be worth more. So it's very possible that you'd also be able to drop PMI. It's very possible that your loan to value ratio is going to be significantly lower. So you're going to be in a great position financially.
Right. And what I believe, is that when rates are in the mid to high fives for everyone, not just FHA, I think that the floodgates of buyers are going to re-enter the market, and all of that stagnant inventory that's sitting there is going to be gone very quickly. And then all of a sudden it's going to be a fight for houses again. And so that's why waiting is just not a good idea. In fact, it's going to cost you a shitload of money.
Yeah. I mean, every single one of our sellers right now that we're working with, we're coaching them in that it's okay and it's normal to be giving even minimal amounts of credit to buyers to get things under contract and to sell. Like that's a very normal market. So buyers right now, say maybe you pay full price or you have to buy up the number a little bit, but then you get money back to buy down your rate. Boom. Now you are in this home for a very reasonable number. You didn't even have to pay to get the rate down and you're set. So those who are out there holding off on their search, waiting for rates to go down or waiting for the spring, like you might be doing yourself a disservice by waiting.
Yeah, spring is, in our market, it's the time of the most appreciation realized every single year. So
and
it's the most expensive
competition.
time to buy, right?
Exactly.
Good time for sellers. All right, number 3, not taking the time to develop a strategic plan to buy. So many buyers make this mistake where they think the process of buying a home is to start looking at houses. Why is that not the process?
Look, you do not want to find the home first and then have to backtrack through all the financials and does this make sense and am I qualified? Like you're setting yourself up for complete heartbreak by doing it this way.
Not only that, but you're probably making the largest investment of your life and you're shooting from the hip on how you're going to do it and possibly even slowing down enough to think about what you really want. Oftentimes, when I do a buyer consultation with a husband and a wife, I ask them, I'm like, what are the must-haves, the non-negotiable features you have to have in this home that you're going to buy? And they look at each other like they haven't even had this conversation. I'm like, all right, well, that's why we're here. Let's have this conversation. Like, let's go between the wife. Let's go to the husband. What matters to you guys? And where are the crossovers? And what are the things that maybe don't matter as much? But let's put some strategic thinking into what we really need in this house so that when you buy this home, you're not calling me 2 years later and saying, I bought the wrong house.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And such a good point. Because say, the wife is looking like the kitchen is all that matters to her. Like just for stereotypes, let's say. So the wife is just looking for houses with like a gorgeous kitchen. But what's really important to the husband is actually having like a nice bedroom and a nice master suite so that he actually has space and room to get ready, whatever. Well, if he doesn't know that the kitchen's really important to her or she doesn't know that a master's really important to him, they could be searching for a house, like you said, without actually sitting down, strategizing on what they both want, what's most important to both of them. They could be shopping, and you as an agent could be shopping with them for weeks or months and not ever deduce why none of these houses are working. Right. Like it's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your time as a buyer to not sit down and have a strategic plan. So.
Right. So, like, what does a strategic plan involve? It involves an understanding of the process from start to finish. It involves a planning session of transitioning from where you're at to where you're going to go, like whether you're renting or selling. There's a lot of planning that needs to go into that to make that work very smoothly. And then it's getting total clarity on what's happening in the market and what you're actually looking for in a home. Like that takes some time to flesh out. And if you're an agent, you don't do buyer consultations, shame on you. Like you have a responsibility as the professional to slow down with buyers and explain this all to them. If you're a buyer and your agent's not doing this for you, you should go find a different agent.
1,000%.
Right? This is a huge mistake. And when we got into real estate, like most agents were not doing buyer consultations. Why do you think that was?
Well, everybody gets so excited about somebody wanting to buy that they want to jump right into shopping.
Right. They just want to go see the house.
Yeah.
Right. And
which
we don't
I totally
slow down
get
enough to put some thinking into this.
Well, and that's what it comes down to what you said. Like as professionals, we have to slow down the process. Like we have to protect sometimes our clients from themselves to make sure that they are thinking through the things that make sense for them. How many times have we talked clients out of buying a home because they were just tired of looking and like, okay, this one will do. And we're like, no, this does not check the boxes that you told me are important to you. Like
I can usually see it in like, when I see that happen, it's like it's usually a couple and one of them loves it and one of them is not loving it. And they're just kind of wanting the other person to be happy and they're kind of wanting this process to be over. And I'm like, what do you guys both think about this home? And the first person's super excited. And the second person's like, it's good. I'm like, what do you really think?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then like kind of extracting that information out of them and challenging them to keep going to actually find that house that gives them both that just joy and that they love.
Yeah. I mean, part of our job is not just, removing emotion from some of this and slowing down the process, but also infusing energy and life into the process to make sure that we have their backs. We're not going to get them into something that they don't like, or that they're, going to look back 2 years and say, I made the wrong decision. I want to sell my house.
Right.
So.
Number 4, prioritizing dollars off of a house versus dollars back for a buy down.
Exactly. My gosh. Okay. So I totally understand buyers and the mentality of thinking, okay, well, this house is listed at, for round numbers, $600,000. Well, if I get it at $575,000, I just got a deal. Totally get it. Understood completely. However, the power in being able to say, I'm going to offer $600,000, but then ask for $25,000 in credits. Now you're able to cover out of pocket expenses for the closing table. You're able to buy down your rate. You're possibly even able to buy off your private mortgage insurance, which would bring your monthly payment down several $100s. There's so much more that you can do by prioritizing dollars back off of, like a credit in that purchase price, as opposed to just taking dollars off of the property and getting a better deal.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you get $10,000 off of a home, it saves you about $70, $80 a month, right? But what's the impact of taking that money and doing a rate buy down, or potentially looking into like a 2-1 buy down where you get a 2% lower interest rate the first year and then a 1% lower interest rate the next year? Like, could be a big difference in money, or it could be just helpful to have that money in your pocket to update the home the way you want to do, or whatever else. So dollars off the house are sometimes it's the right solution, but most often not, unless the buyer is extremely financially strong. And
do you want to explain kind of, because I think that this is one that people might be a little bit confused with sometimes. Like, say I have, a $40,000 that I've been saving for years and years and years for a down payment and closing costs. And I go to purchase this property, and now you've walked me through kind of the buying process. I understand that, okay, my closing costs are going to be like 1.5% to 2% just for the loan and just for, the points of things that I need to buy. Well, I also, I'm probably going to need to put carpets into this. I'm probably going to need to paint it. So, how could I best use that $40,000 to go into this property, utilizing this strategy of getting money back as opposed to money off?
Yeah, I mean, I call that like the cash planning of purchasing. Like, what's the best use of the money that you have available? And usually there's 3 kind of buckets to think about. There's the down payment, there's the closing costs, and there's the enhancements or improvements or the moving costs, right? Because the last thing you want people to do is spend all their money on the down payment, and then they have nothing to actually, like, they can't hire movers. They're like flat broke at that point. They have no savings whatsoever. Right. So if an emergency comes up, they're in a really, really bad place just to buy this house. So that's not the best planning, right? A better way to do it is probably to reduce your down payment a little bit, and then try to get that seller to give you a credit for 1.5% or 2% on the closing costs, and then hold on to the rest of your money.
That's exactly right. Because what that does, it allows you to keep that money in your pocket, utilize some of the credit that the seller has given you, that your agent's been able to negotiate in that contract for the loan costs and for the rate buy down per se, and then reduce the down payment a little bit so that your payment can stay about the same, utilizing that rate buy down.
Yeah, so exactly. The last one, number 5, waiting to save up for a big down payment before you buy. And I'm really talking to renters right now, less so sellers that are going to purchase a home, because most sellers, if they bought in the last 5 years, they have a huge amount of equity in their home, and they're going to be 20% down buyers all day long. But the renter that is stuck in the rat race of paying rent, that has continual rental increases going on, that's moving around from apartment to apartment to apartment, or house to house to house, and that has that disruption to their lifestyle every year, and all that lack of predictability, that's the person I'm talking to. Like, you're always going to be better off using a 0 down loan program and getting out of renting as fast as possible. It's just going to build wealth for you over time, right? And I've got plenty of clients that have added $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 to their net worth that had a 0 net worth when we started, just from owning a house.
That's exactly right. And I really want to challenge you. Like, if you're renting, if you're looking in the market for a rental, you have a particular budget that you're looking in, right? And so you're kind of like, okay, well, what's the best option that I can get in the location that I want for my price range? And you always settle on something as a renter, always. Like, you have to. That's your only option. But then when we go into the market as a buyer, why does the threshold change? And you're like, well, I can't get what I want. for my number. Like, let's think about that for a second and say, well, if this is what I'm qualified for with the 0 down loan, and this is the general area that I want to be, and this is what I can get right now, take it. Like, go get it. Of course, it's not going to be the perfect dream home, but it's going to be something that gets you in to the market where you have a complete steady payment every month and you're building equity over time.
Yeah, I think that's been lost on a lot of buyers in the last 5 years is that concept of the starter house and the move-up house.
Right.
Like everyone wants the dream house on their first home purchase. And that's just not really the way that it works because here's kind of the progression that happens. Most people own 4 to 5 homes during their lifetime, right? Because life changes. But typically, historically speaking, people would buy like a starter house, which would be like the least expensive home in the market. Like if our average home price is $900,000, it'd be like your $450,000 to $500,000 home, needs work, not great condition, really small, right? That's a starter house. And that gets you in the door. You now live in that house for 5, 6, 7 years. That house appreciates like $150,000 or however much it's going to go up. You then sell it and you move on to the next one. Maybe that next one is now $700,000 and you do that exact same thing. So it really actually takes people usually 15 to 20 years of home ownership to have the dream home.
Exactly.
Like if you're, and that's how you buy a dream home without like a 3% down payment. You end up putting 20, 30, 40% down, which gets your payment to be super reasonable, but it's a progression. It's not going in for that kill shot on the first house. That's just not the goal of transitioning from renting to home ownership. The goal is to start building wealth, like just get out of the rat race and then have stability. If you can do those two things, it's a huge win.
Exactly. I saw a statistic 2 weeks ago that said the average 40-year-old who has been renting their entire adult life has spent about $400,000 on rent. So just put that in your arsenal when it comes to thinking about home ownership. If you're in your 20s or you're in your 30s and you've never owned before, the longer you rent, the more you're just continuing to pay somebody else's mortgage. Again, one of those cliche things I think that real estate agents say. But again, if you can humble yourself and say, I just want to get into a starter home. What can I afford right now? Get into it. Sacrifice those couple of years. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be glamorous, but like you said, you're then going to build into, now you've got a bigger down payment for a home that you may really want years later.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we've got for you. There's plenty of other mistakes that buyers make, trust me. We've seen all of them at some point, but these are ones that we see repeated constantly right now. Again, if you're an agent, I think this gives you an opportunity to coach your clients better and set better expectations. If you're a buyer or a seller, just gives you some insights into maybe some pitfalls to avoid along the way. So if you're buying or selling in Snohomish County, please reach out to us. meetthenovaks.com is the place to connect, or on Instagram at @therealmikenovak or
at Rachel Novak.
And of course, if you're an agent nationwide and you're following us and you're curious about real brokerage, reach out to us. We'd love to mentor you and explain to you why we moved our business to real brokerage back in 2021. And it's been one of the best business decisions we've ever made.
Exactly right. See you next time.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Growth Dragons.
If you found value in this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with a fellow entrepreneur.
For more insights, tools, and resources, visit us at thewarrioragent.com.
Keep pushing forward, keep leading with purpose, and we'll see you next time.